The Law of One, Book V. Fragment 1. Session 1. January 15, 1981. Jim, the beginning of Session 1 appears here precisely as it was received. In our first private printing of Book 1 of The Law of One we omitted a portion of this first session because Dawn felt that, compared with the other 25 sessions of Book 1, it was anomalistic and perhaps too confusing as such for first-time readers. That omission was reproduced when the mass-market edition was printed by the Dawning Company under the title of The Raw Material. This is the only session in which Raw delivered anything close to what Brad Steiger has called a cosmic sermonette, before beginning with the question and answer format that was used exclusively throughout the remainder of the Raw contact. Raw preferred the question and answer format because it allowed our free will to decide what information we would seek rather than their determining that choice for us by using the lecture method of teacher-learning. And it was interesting to us that Raw mentioned in this first session that they were not able to offer any conditioning to any instrument due to their own transmitting limitations. This conditioning often involves seemingly involuntary movement of some part of the vocal cords, mouth, lip, jaw, or some other physiological sensation which the one serving as instrument identifies with the approach of the contact. This session also marks the last time that Raw ever attempted to speak through any instrument other than Carla. Since the channeling phenomenon has become so commonplace, we would like to make an additional comment on the conditioning vibration. Many who serve as instruments feel that they recognize the entities who speak through them by the conditioning vibration and need no other identification to be sure that they are channeling whom they think they are channeling. We have found that this is not always so because negative entities of the same relative vibration will feel just like the familiar positive entity to the one serving as instrument when the negative entity wishes to call itself by another name and mimic the positive entity as a part of the process of tricking the instrument and then detuning the positive work done by the group receiving its information. This is standard procedure for those of the path of service to self. The fundamental concept involved is that the opportunity for positive entities to speak through instruments and groups must be balanced by the same opportunity being offered to negative entities. This need not be a difficulty for any instrument, however, if it and its support group utilizes the twin processes of tuning the group and challenging the contact each time channeling occurs. Tuning the group is the process whereby each individual in the group refines the desire to serve others and puts it first and foremost in the mind and heart. The group may accomplish this tuning by any method which has meaning to each within the group, whether that be by singing sacred songs, chanting, praying, telling jokes, sharing information, visualizing light surrounding the group, or whatever blends each present into one unified source of seeking. Then when the instrument feels the entities which wish to channel through it are present, the challenge is mentally given, again in whatever way that feels appropriate to the instrument and in whatever way that the instrument can get behind with every fiber of its being. The instrument will demand to know if the entities wishing to channel through it come in the name of whatever principle the instrument feels is the highest and best in its own life. One may challenge the entity wishing to speak in the name of Jesus the Christ consciousness, the positive polarity, service to others, or in the name of one of the archangels, or in whatever represents the center of one's life, that for which the instrument lives and would gladly die. This forms a wall of light through which an entity of negative polarity has as much trouble passing through as you and I would discover with a solid brick wall. Negative entities stand ready to fill in any lapse of care in this regard with their offering of service in their own way, that is, mimicking the positive contact only as much as necessary to maintain the channel and then giving false information whenever possible, usually having to do with dates and descriptions of upcoming cataclysmic earth changes which, when made public by the group receiving such information, makes the group lose credibility since the dates are never correct. Thus the negative entity takes the spiritual strength of the light which the group had been able to share in service to others' work. Carla used this method of challenging Raw for the first 2 sessions. This was and is her normal method, as she usually does conscious channeling. But in the Raw contact she involuntarily went into trance, and could not tune in that way, so we were glad when, at the end of the second session, Raw gave us the ritual of walking the circle of one to replace the challenging procedure used in telepathic channeling, since in all sessions after the first 2 Carla was immediately in the trance state, out of her body, and unaware of any activity whatsoever. None of us ever discovered how she was able to accomplish this trance state and the leaving of her body. It was apparently a pre-incarnatively chosen ability chosen to aid in the contact with Ra. Our meditation before each session was our group process of tuning. We used what Dawn called tuned trance telepathy to communicate with those of Ra. This is to say that while the contact was ongoing, neither Carla nor those of Ra inhabited Carla's body. Carla's spirit was apparently in the care of those of Ra, while Ra used Carla's body from a distance to form the words that responded to Dawn's questions. Ra mentioned many times that they had only the grossest control over her body and had difficulty, for example, in repositioning her hands when one of them was experiencing pain flares due to her arthritic condition. Carla could not feel these pain flares, but repositioning them was sometimes necessary since the pain was like static on the line. This occurred only occasionally and was always noted in the text. Dawn and Carla had been working together for 12 years channeling, researching, and had written 2 books in the area of metaphysics before I joined them in December of 1980. Unsure of what to do as the first project together, we considered rewriting one of those books, Secrets of the UFO, and I had begun background reading and taking notes. 3 weeks later the first Ra contact occurred and was totally unexpected. It happened when Carla was conducting a teaching session in which one of the Sunday meditation group members was learning how to channel. Dawn sat in on the session, but I was out shopping and happened to walk in through the front door loaded with sacks of groceries just as Dawn was asking about the earth changes that were anticipated at the end of this cycle of growth. At that point Ra requested a moment to deepen Carla's trance state before continuing. Such an interruption never happened again because after the second session we prepared another room especially for the Ra contact and continued to use the living room for all other meditations and teaching sessions. This first session is one of only 4 of the total 106 sessions with Ra in which anyone besides Dawn, Carla, and I attended. Since the 3 of us lived together, the harmony that we developed between us was very stable and was a critical ingredient in establishing and maintaining the contact. Carla, these days, I am teaching very few people to channel. Through the years, I have seen the kind of havoc an opened and untuned channel can wreak in the personality of the seeker who channels just for a while, or just for the fun of it. The basic problem with channeling tends to be that the channel needs to be actively attempting to live the message she is receiving. In spiritual work, no one has the luxury of saying, "Do as I say, not as I do." If we do not embody the principles we offer to others, we receive often dramatic and life-shaking catalyst that points up the divergence of ideals from true intention. I have seen people lose their sanity when carelessly involved with channeling. So I take the responsibility of taking students very, very seriously. For the most part, I now work with people who come to me already channeling, and having difficulties with that. This has involved me with people being moved around the world by signals from Indians, UFO contactees with strange stories, and all manner of diverse folks who are in some way at risk in the New Age sea of confusion. The phrase spiritual counselor has a smug, know-it-all feeling to it, which I hope I do not reflect, but it's pretty much what I am doing these days. Perhaps spiritual listener is more accurate. With email there has come a wider opportunity to relate with seekers personally. We welcome anyone's communication here at Laurel Research, and have never failed to answer any mail sent to us, so please feel free to address questions to us. We're delighted to help in any way we can. Ra, I am Ra. I have not spoken through this instrument before. We had to wait until she was precisely tuned as we send a narrow band vibration. We greet you in the love and in the light of our infinite Creator. We have watched your group. We have been called to your group, for you have a need for the diversity of experiences in channeling which go with a more intensive, or as you might call it, advanced, approach to the system of studying the pattern of illusions of your body, your mind, and your spirit, which you call seeking the truth. We hope to offer you a somewhat different slant upon the information which is always and ever the same. The Confederation of Planets in the service of the Infinite Creator has only one important statement. That statement, my friends, as you know, is that all things, all life, all of the creation is part of one original thought. We will exercise each channel if we are able to. The reception of our beam is a somewhat more advanced feat than some of the more broad vibration channels opened by other members for more introductory and intermediate work. Let us for a moment consider thought. What is it, my friends, to take thought? Took you then thought today? What thoughts did you think today? What thoughts were part of the original thought today? In how many of your thoughts did the creation lie? Was love contained? And was service freely given? You are not part of a material universe. You move your body, your mind, and your spirit in somewhat eccentric patterns, for you have not completely grasped the concept that you are part of the original thought. We would at this time transfer to the instrument known as Dawn. I am Ra. Pause. Ra, I am Ra. I am again with this instrument. We are close to initiating a contact, but we are having difficulty penetrating a certain mental tension and distraction that are somewhat characteristic of this channel. We will therefore describe the type of vibration which is being sent. The instrument will find us entering the energy field at a slight angle towards the back of the top of the head in a narrow but strong area of intensity. We are not able to offer any conditioning due to our own transmitting limitations, therefore, if the instrument can feel this particular effect, he may then speak our thoughts as they come to him. We will again attempt this contact. I am Ra. Pause. Ra, this instrument is resisting our contact. However, we assure you that we are satisfied that contact with the one known as Dawn is not preferable to that instrument. We will, therefore, move on to the one known as Leonard. Again we caution the instrument that it is a narrow band of communication which is felt as a vibration entering the aura. We will now transfer this contact. I am Ra. Pause. Ra, I am Ra. We greet you once more in the love and the light of our infinite Creator. We ask that you be patient with us. We are a difficult channel to receive. We may perhaps add some dimensions to your understanding. At this time we would be glad to attempt to speak to any subject or question which those entities in the room may have potential use in the requesting.